Hey everyone, Mike Hidalgo here. Thank you for joining us on another FCP Euro DIY. Today, we're going to be working on our 99 Porsche 911. Today, we're going to be covering how to replace the engine mounts on the 996 behind us. A couple of things to note. Engine mounts are a common wear item. Typically, they're going to last about 100,000 miles, all dependent on how you drive. If you're going to drive the car on the track, often than not, then you're going to want to look into replacing these sooner than later, especially if they're original on your vehicle. For our car, as you may have seen already, it is semi-new to us. We don't really know the history of it. We don't have any service records for it, so we have no idea if they've ever been replaced or if they're original. So we're going to go ahead and put in some fresh mounts. We got the Rein mounts today. Our kit comes with 2 new mounts and mounting hardware. So before we get started on this DIY, let's take a look at the tools we're going to need for this job. We have 2 torque wrenches that give us a couple different torque values. We have a 1/2-inch drive ratchet, as well as a 1/2-inch extension and an 18mm socket. A nice to have, but not necessary, is this impact gun to make the removal of the 18mm nut easier. We have a 3/8 drive extension, as well as a couple 13mm sockets and a flathead screwdriver. And another thing, not on camera, but you're going to need is a floor jack. The floor jack is going to be needed to support the engine while you're dropping the mounts out of the vehicle. Now that we have the tools covered, let's head over to the car and get started. So first, we're going to go ahead and remove our air box. We're going to unplug our mass airflow sensor by pressing these 2 tabs in. I like to push it into the car, into the box, and then pull it back out. I'll free that up. From there, I'm going to remove the oil fill tube. This just pops up and out of the way, just like that. Next, I'm going to remove this hose clamp that connects the intake boot to the throttle body. You can use a flathead screwdriver. I'm using an 8mm socket on a ratchet. And then from there, you want to remove the 13mm bolt that holds the whole box to the engine bay. From there, we can go ahead and give the intake boot a gentle tug and separate that. Then we're going to pull the airbox out and remove the mass airflow sensor wire from the little connecting clip that holds it in place. We're going to go ahead and work on removing our secondary air pumps. First, you want to remove the wires that run through this clip. Simply pull back on this guy, it opens up. You lift them and just literally put them out to the side. Close that back up. Next, you're going to want to pull off this hose. Simply comes off just like that. Just tuck it to the side. Perfect. From there, we have a 10mm bolt up here. You would have another one down here. Ours is missing it already. And a 10mm in the back there. That one is already loose, as you can see, but we'll work with that when we get to it. Start removing this top one. This one also holds in the expansion tank. Again, that's a 10mm bolt. Our 10mm at the bottom was already loose. Whoever was in here before didn't tighten it down, so this just slipped out. And so did this connector. To remove the connector, you simply want to find the tabs that hold, see this is why this fell out, it's already broken. To remove the connector, you want to pinch the 2 tabs on this end, pull back, and it's free. From there, we can go ahead and pull this secondary air pump out. Now we have our secondary air pump removed and our air box, we can go ahead and brace our engine so that we can remove our engine mounts. We're going to use a floor jack with a piece of wood, and we're going to go ahead and support that underneath the sump. So let's do that before we do anything else. Now we're going to take our floor jack, wheel it underneath our vehicle, and jack up towards our sump. We're working on a lift today, however, this is a job you can easily do on the ground. There we go. Now, before we take out any hardware, we're just going to snug the jack up to the sump, and good. The 18mm bolt we're going to be removing is on the first one's going to be on the left-hand side, right by where the headers meet the cats. You can see it's right up in there on our carrier. Just going to go ahead and use the impact to break it free. If you don't have an impact, use your 1/2-inch ratchet. As you can see, our stud came out with the nut. This must have been seized on here. Normally you should just have the nut come out, so it's a good thing we're replacing these. Same thing on the passenger side. The nut is located right by the header and the cap meets. As you can see, same situation on the passenger side. The whole stud came out with our nut. This thing was probably seized on here from a long time ago. Let's head to the top of the engine bay. Thank you for joining us in the engine bay. Now we're going to take our 13mm socket. We're going to break free these two bolts, and then we're going to pull the mount up and out. Now that we have our area cleaned up, we can go ahead and install our new mounts. These are just going to drop right in, line up the bolt holes, and start them by hand. It's going to use a ratchet to speed up the install, and then we'll torque them down. For cars equipped with M8 bolts like this one is, you're going to torque these down to 17 foot-pounds. Cars that use the M10 bolts, you're going to torque those down to 23 foot-pounds, so make sure you check that before you torque them down. For the passenger side, it's going to be the exact same process, so let's go ahead and do that as well. Now we can install our new 18mm nut. And then we're going to torque it down to 63 foot-pounds. Now we're going to go ahead and repeat the same on the other side. Now that we've snugged this side down, we're going to go ahead and torque it down to 63 foot-pounds. Now we're going to reinstall the secondary air pump. I'm going to go ahead and plug in the electrical connector first. You can see it's notched. It only goes in one way. There we go. Normally this is going to have a little channel here that was already broken that will hold this in place. You can go ahead and throw a zip tie in it if yours is missing like ours is. We're going to go ahead and do that real quick. Then we're going to go ahead and remove our 10mm nut that we put back earlier to keep our tank in place. And we're going to slip our secondary air pump back into place, roughly. Slip our hose over. That's just a press fit. There's no clamp on there. And if there was, it's long gone. 10mm can go back. Then, if your car's been better loved than ours has, you would have two more bolts holding it into place there. As you saw when we took this out, the back one wasn't even doing anything. We're going to have to replace those sometime down the road. But all we have left to do is tuck our wires back through this clip. Pop that open. Slip them in and close it. Now we're going to put our airbox back in. On the bottom you'll see there's supposed to be two allocating dowels. Ours is missing one, so we're going to go ahead and make sure the one on the right finds its way in. We're going to go ahead and slip it in. As we do that, we're going to run our MAF airflow sensor wire through that clip on the corner. There we go. And we can go ahead and line up our airbox. Make sure we get that dowel in its home down below. There we go. We can slip our intake boot on. Now we're going to reinstall our 13mm bolt that holds the box into place. There we go. Oil filler tube can be popped back into its home. I'm using an 8mm socket. However, you can just use a flathead. And we can pop our air tube back in. Just like that. And then last but not least, reconnect our mass airflow sensor. There we have it. Now that the motor is bolted back up into place, we can go ahead and remove our floor jack, lowering it slowly just for precaution. Pull it out of the way. And there you have it, my good people. That concludes this DIY for today. Overall, not too bad. A little taunting with the fact that you have to lower the engine a couple inches. But other than that, pretty straightforward. If you guys like what you saw today, please be sure to give this video a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments on this DIY, leave those in the box below. And if you like this DIY and you want to see more, please consider subscribing. We make new ones all the time. As always, thank you for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.